Hello, everybody, and welcome to another homebrew chat with me, Shark Homebrewing, and Rob.
Bramall back
Homebrew
at you.
Brewing. Yeah. So,
Hello.
obviously, yeah. So I hope everybody's doing well today. Today's topic is going to be about yeast, what we know of it, obviously, and what yeast we use, and kind of remedies or antidotes, whatever how you want to say, of kind of doing starters and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
this was Rob's idea. So.
Yeah, I thought yeast is quite interesting. It's really important, isn't it? Yeast, without yeast, you
Oh
don't have
yeah,
basically, yeast turns the sugary works into alcohol, CO2, so you get carbonation, you get them esters as well, so you get the aromas,
yeah,
the flavor. So yeast is really important. And I don't know, people, a lot of basic homebrewers don't realize how important yeast is. I don't know. In the UK, we get some like kits, like where you get the wort already done for you, like a
yeah,
syrup, and they just seem to throw in any yeast with that kit.
yeah,
Now, what I would say to people is, instead of using that yeast, maybe just do a bit of research and find a yeast which would be better. So buy just a couple of pound extra and get yourself a decent yeast. Hi,
yeah.
Clark.
No, yeah, yeah. Because that's cause I looked when I started homebrew. I looked into that, and I was like, because it was like I think it was Cooper's
Yeah,
or Mutton's, one of those two. But I'm just trying to figure out what was their main basic yeast. I mean,
yeah,
and you never really could find an answer. So it's like, okay, but so I
yeah.
think that was
That's right.
another reason I kind of like I said if I got some of those kits, I go, you know what, I'm gonna go buy yeast because I kind of want to learn. Because
Yeah,
as I said, those when you buy different yeast, you get all different aromas, flavors. I mean, it changes the flavor, the taste of the beer a lot
yeah,
of times
exactly.
too. So it's like you wouldn't think that it would do that, but it does. I mean, it's not a big change, but it's just it's so enough change that they're okay kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, exactly. A good example for people to taste is when you compare a Belgian beer to, say, an American IPA or
Oh
just a
yeah,
British bitter. They're all ale yeasts, but they're all bringing different esters and tastes. I mean, a Belgian
yeah,
beer brings clove, bubblegum, banana, as an ester and a flavour. And that's the
yeah.
yeast that's
Oh
doing that,
yeah,
the grains or the hops. So it's really interesting. And I suppose what's really important as well is fermentation temperatures as well with your yeast,
oh
because
yeah,
if you
oh yeah, definitely. Yeah,
if
but
ferment
that,
too
like
high with an ale yeast, it could give you some uh, we call
yeah,
them like nail polish sort of esters and aromas and flavors. If it's too
yeah,
high, and then with a lager yeast, you ferment a lot lower. So there is basically two yeasts out there for brewers. One is
yeah,
the lager yeast, which, as we know, that's a bottom fermenting yeast.
yeah,
You've got the ale yeast, which is a top fermenting yeast, and then you've got fairly new to the homebrewers is Kvike, which it isn't a new yeast at all. It's ancient, but it's new to the homebrewers because you can now buy it in a dry form. I think you can get it in a wet form in small packets. And again, it is an ale yeast, but you can ferment at higher temperatures, which then means you get quicker fermentation, and it
yeah,
doesn't give you any off esters. It actually brings tropical sort of notes with the esters. So Kvike is
yeah,
really good if you're just getting into
yeah,
homebrewing. Temperature control is huge, and that Kvike yeast is really it lets you off a bit, lets you off a hook.
yeah. To be honest, I'm surprised that I wish people that do these starter kits would use those Quebec yeast because everybody who's starting home brewing, they don't know about that temperature control or anything like that kind of thing. And so like that would be a good yeast for them. 'Cause that
Yeah,
way, like, oh, I put in a room and well, it was too warm, but the yeast is like, okay, it's forgiving. Kind of.
yeah,
But see, that would then only too that way that brewer for the first time gets that a good experience because then when they taste the beer, they go, oh, hey, that's not too bad, and like, okay, I can maybe want to keep going, kind of. But if you use wherever it's in that can or whatever back, all of a sudden you get those esters like, ooh, wait a minute, this is like wrong, like. So now you get a
yeah,
bad experience, and now you're going, do I really want to do this again?
Yeah.
Because you might
Yeah.
be on your own, and like you won't have access to like us and say, oh yeah, you're fine. No, just do this next time, kind of thing.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's like
Yeah,
yeast. It's key to getting a good beer, isn't it? People
yeah,
people think it's the grains, it's hops. Actually, the yeast is, if you can get the yeast right and get the fermentation
yeah.
temperature, right, you're going to get a decent beer.
Oh
In
yeah,
the UK for a home brewer, because of if you haven't got any sort of way of controlling temperature for fermentation, especially if you're starting out as home brewers, I would
yeah,
recommend people in the UK to use Nottingham yeast, because that has got such a wide range of temperature. It can go quite low down to 12 degrees, and it can go up to about 22 degrees. So
yeah.
it's quite a forgiving yeast, and it doesn't really, it wouldn't put you off brewing because it doesn't bring a lot
Yeah,
of flavors and esters. So in the UK, I'd say Nottingham yeast is a good call if you're gonna, if you buy a kit and
yeah.
you don't want to use their yeast, go for Nottingham. It's quite forgiving.
But yeah, I think the yeast that we have now is a little bit more, I'll say, modified
Hmm.
because, like I said, I use for my Sharkweiser, I use the W3470 lager yeast, and I can brew it at a higher temperature than it's recommended, and I'm just perfectly fine. So I think there's the yeast. I think to be honest, like most of the yeast are a little bit more forgiving
Yeah.
than what it's written on those packages. I think that it's just what they put on those packages is the sweet spot. Okay, this is you're gonna get your ideal, but you can venture below or above those temperatures.
Yeah.
I don't know by how much, but it's again a home brewery. You experiment something. That's why where you when you do those kind of experimentations, you take notes. That way, if it is great, you go, okay, this is what I did last time. Let's do it again, or blah blah blah
Yeah.
kind of thing.
So mentioning the one that you just mentioned there,
Yeah,
uh, it says on the packet 9 degrees up to 22 degrees in Celsius. In
yeah. Oh yeah,
Fahrenheit,
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm probably was up in the 18, the high teens. I think.
yeah, so 48 to 71
Yeah.
in
Yeah, oh, yeah, I was
Fahrenheit.
in this. I was in the 62 range
Yeah,
Fahrenheit.
yeah,
So yeah, and it was perfectly fine. I mean,
yeah.
I say you might have gotten a little bit of more of an ester, but it's not enough to where like ooh, no, it's still. And it just your beer is maybe not as crisp, but it's
That's
drinkable. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. I was about to say, because normally with a lager yeast, and if you're brewing like a lager, it's a you brew them cooler and you get a more crisp end product because you brew them
yeah,
cooler, which means you brew it longer. I mean, the fermentation's longer, but the lagering can be.
yeah,
How long do
yeah.
you lager your beer? Your lager?
Actually, to be honest, actually, after I'm done with this, we are going to be. because I have a German Pilsner. I'm lager right now. I think I'm on. It's got to be 6 weeks now. So I'm going to actually go keg it today, and I'll probably just keg it in there and leave it there for another week, then I'll carbonate it.
Yeah,
Kind of let it. Well, after I try, because when I looked at my second fermenter, I mean secondary. It's actually cleared out pretty good, but I don't see too much sediment on the bottom. So I'm like, okay, so I'm probably gonna be okay. I mean, I probably could transfer it over and go ahead and carbonate it, but I'll let it go for another week.
yeah,
But
yeah,
but on the average, I'll say at least 6 weeks.
yeah, yeah.
And this is
And
the
it's
first. This is my first time doing it for that long. Usually, I'll do it for like a month, maybe. Because basically, what I'm doing, I'm practicing for when I do my Oktoberfest beer. I want to do this kind of same thing. I want to do the lager for at least 6 weeks,
yeah.
kind of thing.
I'm just looking at
Oh
your
yeah, well, that's the only too is so us home brewers we get the little sackets of 11 grams, 11 and a half
yeah,
grams, all depends.
11,
But
that's
where
right, 11.
John was at 50, was it 500 grams or his
Yeah,
big?
there's another
Yeah,
another sort of, that's another example of that's a German wheat style ale yeast. That brings different esters again.
yeah.
But that's 11 grams, and I probably pay about £3 to up to £4 a packet, 11
Oh
grams.
gee,
So
yeah,
it'd be interesting to what John pays for a 500 grams compared to my 11 grams. I bet it doesn't compare.
So Rob, when next time you go over there, go steal some of his yeast.
In the pocket.
Yeah.
Just take a salt and pepper pot.
We probably should also just say there's also two. I mean, there's liquid and there's the dry. Obviously, I mean, I use more of the dry because it just fits to me, it fits more my style. I mean, I'm not wasting, I'm not say wasting, but I don't use it all kind of thing.
Yeah. That's a good point, because when I use, I do buy, say, 11 gram packet. I've got into a routine now of being able to reuse, repitch yeast. I've got some examples here, but that 11 grams will probably do me 3 brews. I can get 3 brews out of that doing the small batch brewing. I normally pitch about 3.5 to 4 grams per brew for 5 litres of beer. So I'm getting 3 beers out of that £4 packet.
So so this is a good question. I was just thinking about this the other day. It's like, so when you brew a beer and you open one of those, so do you just start with all the 11 grams, or do you just use what you need and kind of, because I pulled out what I had, like my porter I just did, I used like 5 grams. I'm going like, okay, I got 6 grams ish left. I was like, oh shoot, do I just go ahead and do another starter or kind of thing now with this, just to have like what you're doing with what you're reusing, kind of like, I don't know if I can do that or not. I mean, it could be a good experiment.
Yeah. So what I do, I just, so let's show an example. So here, I did a Pilsner. So you'll see there, that's like Pilsner yeast. So that's from a previous brew. And what I've done is the lager yeast. I have 5 grams. Then I make a small starter. Then I go on to a calculator on, I think it's beer. I can't remember the name of the website. And there's one there for basically yeast slurry. So I work out how much yeast slurry I need for my batch.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the rest of it is then basically in here for the next time we use it. So I use that up to about 10 times. So I get like 10 runs of that yeast, which I can continuously use. So that's the way I do it. And then I store all my yeast in the freezer.
Yeah. So okay. You put yours in the freezer. Yeah, I just put mine in the refrigerator.
Yeah, I just put mine in the freezer. I keep my hops in the freezer as well. I've got
yeah.
So my yeast and hops all stay in the bottom there.
Yeah. Then because the liquid side they're getting, I want to say, not saying better, but I think they're getting better with their packaging. Because like I don't know if you saw, I think we talked about briefly before. It was White Labs is now coming with their liquid yeast. It's a resealable cap.
Yeah, that's great. That's brilliant.
As I said, I was like, I'm almost to the point like, I think I'm gonna start, because obviously the dry yeast, they're getting better. They're getting more rarities out, but it's still limited compared to the liquid.
Yeah,
I'm going like, because a lot of times, I'm gonna use this liquid, but I can't because it's like so much kind of thing. Which is kind of funny too. Is sometimes because Beersmith, I go, okay, from our small batch, I'm gonna use one of the liquids. I'll say, oh yeah, you need a whole packet. I'm like, but on the packet says it's good for 20, 25 liters. I'm going like, I'm only doing 5 liters. I'm going like, wait a minute, why is this calculation saying I have to use a whole one? And I'm going, I'm over pitching big time. And there's another thing too, is you can over pitch.
Yeah, you can.
But that's kind of funny. Funny how that is. But that's why I go, well, if you do the resealable, also you just got to shake it. Make sure you shake it real good, and that way, kind of thing. So I'm almost tempted to kind of try one of those one day just to see how that goes.
Yeah. It's really like I say, it's a really good idea to doing that now, because previously it's just been cut the bag and then you've got to use it, sort of thing. Or there is somebody on YouTube who does use a bit and reseal. I can't remember who that was, though. They
Well,
reseal it.
that's, well, that's like the yeast I eat because I was talking about earlier. Like, okay, I used 5 grams. I was like, right now I just basically roughly sealed it up, and it's still not it's not airtight tight, but it's in the.
Yeah, yeah,
And I was like, okay, I can reuse it because I read you can use it, but you have to use it quickly. Like
right.
if you like I brewed a batch now, okay, my next one I gotta use that yeast again, kind of thing. That's why
Yeah,
I say well, what you're doing is creating that little starter, I mean, kind of thing, and just
yeah,
well, you can store it for a little bit longer.
yeah, yeah. That's what I've done. And I suppose
Yeah.
one of the things I do is as well is so an example there with that Pilsner one, I would make another starter with this, and then when I make the
Yeah.
starter, I'd smell it and taste it as well. Because if it's anything off there, I'm not going to use it, and then I'll just go
Yeah.
and pitch some of my dry yeast. So you've got to still think about that. Don't just go, oh yeah, smell. Trust the smell and the taste as well of the starter because the
Yeah.
starter is only a small beer. So just trust it. And
Yeah.
if it's anything off at that point, then go, no, I'm not ruining my batch.
Okay, so okay, that's a good question because like so I mean when you're tasting it, so it should taste I mean like a flat beer, I mean kind of in a
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. It's a wort that's been fermented.
Yeah.
So obviously it's not going to be like a condition, but you're going to know at
Yeah.
that point. Is there
Yeah.
something not quite right there? If there is, especially like they say, Band-Aid tastes like a plaster.
Oh yeah.
Something
Yeah.
that yeast is no good. Or if it's sour and you're not making a sour beer, don't pitch it. So,
Okay. Yeah.
you know,
Okay. Yeah. So
that's
okay. No, I
the
got.
best way I can
Yeah.
look at it.
Yeah. Because I never nobody's really said anything like you make the starters or whatever like that, and then you say okay, just, yeah, pitch it. Nobody's really said oh you should smell it, taste it, kind of just to make sure that's viable, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
It
good.
just
That's a good tip
Yeah,
to
it's
do
just a
that.
step that I do. And because I've got the backup of the dry yeast, I can still
Yeah.
carry on with the brew day because I can use the dry yeast. So that's my
Yeah.
backup. So yeah, I mean, you've seen this one here. I don't know if you can see in there. It's quite
Oh,
hard to see. Quite hard to see. There,
let me bring you up.
see that yeast at the bottom there?
Uh-huh. Oh yeah.
That's yeast that I've harvested from Sierra Nevada Pale Ale bottles.
Okay. Yeah, that's
So
my
that
other question.
that again is I'd make a starter, use that,
Yeah.
taste, aroma. Is it good? If it is, go ahead and use it. So
Yeah.
you can um, you can harvest yeast from bottle conditioned beers. Not every you've got to be aware though, because not every beer has the yeast that they've used to ferment the beer. They may have added something totally different to
Yeah.
re-ferment in the bottle.
A
So
secondary fermentation. Yeah.
yeah, there is yeast out there which you can use for bottle conditioning. So it's not going to be the same as what they use for the actual beer. So you do a little bit of research and you'll
Yeah.
find out whether they've done that or not, or if you've just literally gone from basically from the fermenter to the bottle, and that's a yeast that was already in the fermenter as well. So then that'd be a good yeast to use or to harvest from.
Yeah, because when I first started home brewing, it was interesting. I was bottling my beer, and you get those carb tabs, those little sugar things that you. But the
Yeah,
ones I got a hold of in the beginning, they had a little bit of yeast in it. It was a capsule, and they had a little
uh,
bit of yeast in it.
I've
And so
never
you
seen
basically
that.
just they quit making it. I was like, because basically you pop one of those in, and you're like, that was it. You let it go. And I was
Yeah,
like, and you're basically booming. I mean, 'cause like I said, certain beers. I mean, you're going like, what you stir it up and all that. You're going like, okay, it's going to be equal amount everywhere across. And no, some beers, some reason, have more yeast, and some have less, kind of thing. Where this one, okay, it's
yeah.
going to compensate for that because you're going to get the same amount in that carb tab, roughly.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've
but yeah,
never
that was
seen
a good thing.
that.
Yeah, it was. I want to say White Labs did it because it's the yeah, but no, it was a little capsule. I mean, it was like you're taking a pill, medication kind of thing, and you just a lot of times they said what you did is you can put the whole thing in, it'll dissolve, but you can also they said well if you don't want to wait to dissolve whatever if you want to start a little bit quicker, you can pull it apart and kind of. So of course, you gotta have a funnel to do that because if not, you're gonna miss the
Yeah,
opening of the
yeah.
bottle. But yeah, no, it was. I was kind of, and I had it once, and so I went through them all. I went, okay, I get order more, and like, and so I contacted the company and go like, oh yeah, no, we don't make that, we don't
I
sell it
wonder
anymore.
why.
I'm like,
I wonder what reason there was for not. Because that sounds like a
I,
fantastic idea.
yeah, I know, yeah, they didn't really. I don't recall what they've said. I mean, they weren't selling it kind of thing. It was something to that effect. I was just
Yeah.
like, oh, like really, I was like, oh, that'd be another good thing for home brewers. I mean, another way to cheat. I mean, kind of help process along and get that consistent beer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because if we're talking about batch priming, which if I'm going to bottle
Yeah,
condition, that's what I do. And I, for the first time, not so long ago, it must be about 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago, I used honey as the priming sugar, and I've never done that before. So I was a little bit
yeah.
nervous about that because I'm thinking, wow, I know that honey, I know yeast will just rip through honey, and I thought I don't want overcarbonated
Oh, yeah, I know.
water.
Yeah,
But
yeah, because that's the
seems to have
Brooklyn
worked.
versus, yeah,
Yeah, the Brooklyn. That's right. Yeah, they
yeah,
sort
they
of
do
offer
honey. Yeah,
funny, and I'm like, oh, it's quite difficult to measure.
yeah,
It's not the easiest sugar to use for bottle conditioning.
yeah, yeah. No, that's as I said. There's, I mean, obviously, yeah, um, yeah. I just, yeah, I never did try honey. Like I said, it's just like I just like no, because at that point I kind of knew what to do already, basically. So I was like, I could, because honey will put off a little bit of a taste too. But I mean, it's subtle enough. This is what kind of
Yeah,
beer it is. It might help
yeah,
it, and sometimes it
exactly.
won't.
The beer that I did brew was a honey porter, so that was the reason
Yeah,
why I used honey in the
yeah,
priming. Because I thought, well, it's a honey porter. I've used the honey actually in the beer. And I know that
yeah,
honey, once you boil honey and the yeast gets to working it in the fermentation, it does strip a lot of the flavour because it just basically eats the sugar, so it doesn't leave you a lot. So I thought, how can I
yeah.
introduce a little bit more honey flavour? And I thought, well, I'll use some in the prime, when it's coming to prime it. So I
Uh-huh.
thought I'd use honey at that stage as well. So that's the only time I've ever used it, and I don't think I'll use it again unless I did a honey beer with some
Yeah.
honey in. I think that's the
Or
only
you
reason.
or you have nothing else and go, okay, I have no choice to do that.
Yeah.
Um, we talked about you storing your yeast in the freezer. Now, how long do you, I mean, the sackets, how long do you keep yours? I mean, because they do have a date when they, I guess it's a Best By date.
On these
Yeah.
packets. Yeah,
Yeah. How long?
to be honest with you, I ignored the best before on these because I freeze them. So I'm thinking
Okay.
by freezing it, I should be giving it
Yeah.
more time. So I don't really, but I do make, like I say, I make a starter most of
Yeah.
the time. So if it's not
Yeah.
going to kick off, it's not going to kick off. Or if it tastes or it
Yeah.
smells wrong,
Yeah.
it's very rare I direct pitch with dry yeast nowadays.
Yeah.
I always try and make a bit of a starter because it just gives. I feel like it gives a beer a bit more of a head start. I mean, it's not recommended. They do not say on the packets to make a starter.
No. Well,
They do.
actually, yeah, what the packets actually say is just to rehydrate it. So you just get
Yeah,
a small amount of water and you just pitch it in there and let it kind of.
yeah,
Because a lot of times what I would if I do that, because I just direct pitch. I spend the
yeah,
billions of dollars. I keep the yeast companies thriving. What I sometimes I do, I'll put that. I'll get when I'm doing my pH reading on it because I'll get a little small amount, and I'll basically put a strainer and I'll pour that in, make sure I don't put any of the grain in there, and I get that little bit of that little wort while it's sitting there,
yeah,
and
yeah,
help kick it. I mean, it's a quick starter. I'll call it.
yeah, yeah. Perfect. It's a good way of doing it.
But yeah, no, because basically that's what the instruction says. Is just to rehydrate with warm water. Because
Yeah,
you can if you do that you even if you're doing a starter you get the water has to be within a certain range because
yeah,
if you do it too hot you're going to kill the yeast.
yeah, yeah.
Too
Oh,
cold
yeah,
you're probably too cold. It really depends what kind of yeast it is. It's not going to do anything. It's
That,
just gonna sit there. You're gonna think, oh, it's dead. And like, well, no, warm it up. Especially if it's ale yeast, warm it up a little bit, and all of a sudden you watch the boom, it'll take off.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeast. I've played with yeast now for a couple of years with things. I mean, I've got a sourdough bread, and I've got a sourdough bread starter, which is,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's now about 10 years since I started this. You feed it and you make bread and so and so. And what's it? Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
we'll go back to your story, John. When Mike makes his, I'm assuming he makes his starter. A lot of times with those 500-gram packets, when you kind of activate them, you get this big old. And it's in a bucket. I mean, pretty good sized bucket, and you get a lot of foam and kind of like it's telling you it's alive kind of thing. I think with ours, you don't really see that big foam. I don't know if John's ever seen those guys do it that way, or if John's seen that.
A lot of the, I mean, I was at Red Willow Brewery over near me. I did a brew day with them last year now, and they sort of had like this. It looked like for us, it was like it was a fermenting vessel, probably about 20 liters, but that was their house yeast, which they was just basically they reuse and reuse. But a lot of brewers, I don't know how Lords do it, but a lot of them just dry pitch with dry yeast as well over here. So like that farm, they work out the calculation of how many grams they're going to need for that batch, and literally dry pitch like a home brewer.
Yeah. So basically the pitch, because there's calculators to tell you how much it is. I mean, over pitching necessarily hurt it, but I think it kind of kills. It's like there's too much. I want to say basically you don't get the exact fermentation you should. I believe I think it just because there's just too much yeast. It kind of they're lazily eating away at the sugar instead of aggressively eating away at that sugar. So you're sometimes your alcohol, your ABV might be a couple points lower.
Yeah,
sometimes.
Yeah.
John says he activates it. So I'm thinking, yeah. So basically, what they do is they kind of like the Y yeast. You get that snack pack that you bust open, kind of thing.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I'll soon find out because I'm going to Lords.
So, anyways, go back to your sourdough story.
Yeah, so been baking sourdough bread for 10 years, and I've had a starter, which I don't know if you know about sourdough, but you have like it's a wild yeast for bread baking, and you feed it, and you use it, you feed it, and it goes on forever. And a couple of years, well, that's probably about, I think it was in lockdown, I decided I'm going to brew a beer, but use sourdough yeast. And I used the sourdough yeast, and I think I made 4 batches just to watch that yeast. And it turned out to be really, I've actually got a beer going now. It turned out to be a really good yeast, really neutral. And I've recently just done a beer, a Saison, which was at 1057 gravity. And in 3 days, it went to 1009. And this yeast just really, the sourdough yeast is just a wild fermentation yeast. So it's another way of doing things, and it's got a neutral taste. It's unbelievable. Once you get into yeast, it's unbelievable what you can do if you want to experiment. What I do, I have separate fermentation for that. So I have different bucket. I have different, all different. Basically, my auto siphon. I've got 2. One for when I do the wild stuff. One for when I do the normal stuff, because I don't want any cross contamination. That's probably the joy of being a home brewer compared to a commercial brewer, because you don't want that contamination.
Oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's kind of interesting too because people try to say, "Oh, can't?" Another question that people ask, "Oh, like the regular bread yeast, can you use that to brew beer?" Going, well, yeah, but you got to be. I want to say careful with it, but your results are not going to be the same. I don't think it's going to ferment as the attenuation or whatever is not the same. So you're going to get a low ABV beer out of it. I mean, you can, but it's not. You got to use so much of it just to do anything with it. It's not. feasible, but it's possible. And obviously, like you're doing with, because I think
Yeah.
the bread yeast and what you're using for your sourdough is a little bit different.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it's just a wild yeast,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah,
Sourdough yeast. I mean, I give some of these bottles out to friends, and what they did was drank the beer because it was bottle conditioned. They then used that yeast and made a bread with it. So it did two
yeah,
purposes. So they made bread
yeah.
after they drank the beer, and they had a lovely loaf. And then
Oh,
they kept
that'd
that.
be interesting.
Yeah, they kept that alive, and so they've now got a sourdough starter from the beer that I
Yeah,
gave them. They created a sourdough starter, and they're off baking sourdough breads with it. It's just
yeah. I'm just that's almost like a beer bread kind of in a sense because you're gonna have a little bit of because you're gonna. I mean, it's not probably enough to get the taste of the beer, but because we have that little that you take over to give to them, like, kind of thing. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Never heard that either because you also there's ways to use spent grain to make bread and whatever kind of things. It's kind of interesting that you can use yeast to do
yeah,
other things too.
yeah,
See,
yeah,
there's a lot of uses out of all this stuff. I mean, just like use it, throw it away. I mean, if you think about it, you can figure different ways to use everything.
yeah. That's right. Yeah, I mean, a lot of like you say grains. You can, like you say, you can bake bread. You could
Yeah,
make dog treats is quite a popular one, isn't it? With
yeah.
brews, and then obviously go into animal feed as well.
Oh yeah. What's like love the big brewers of the deals? They'll take it out of the mash tun and basically put it in containers and ship it to their local farmer and feed all the
Yeah.
animals and stuff.
It'd be interesting if John's here, if he does anything with his grains like that. I'm sure in the
I'm
area of
sure he does.
Huddersfield, yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
Huddersfield there's plenty of opportunities to take his grain away.
Yeah. So the wild yeast, that's an interesting topic too, because I was watching this distilling show and they were making a brandy. And so they were using grapes, like wine grapes to do that. And basically the person, I'll call say farmer, and he says, don't pitch any yeast. The
Mm.
grapes actually have wild yeast on them.
Yeah,
So it's like, okay, so they basically did they mashed. I mean, they smashed all the grapes and whatever, and I think they just stuck it in the bucket, and the next day it basically fermented. Or
yeah,
started fermenting and all that because there was so much wild yeast on those grapes, stuff like that.
yeah.
And he said if you do it right, it says the fermentation is done in one day. It will
Wow.
ferment in one. It's quicker than Kvite. I was like, oh damn, what kind of? I was like, so I don't know if it's the same kind of strain as Kvite in a sense. I mean, I think, but I go, wow, and in the day it'll ferment. That. I mean, all the brewers were going, yeah, want that yeast because I can have that turnaround.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because that yeast there that I think I may have shown you already. That is
Uh-huh.
from elderflowers. So I made
Yeah.
an elderflower. They call it elderflower champagne, but basically it's just because it's a fizzy elderflower wine. So all I did, picked the
Yeah.
elderflower, the water, the sugar, and did nothing. And then it
Yeah.
fermented. And then at the bottom, like the other trub at the end,
Yeah.
after it's fermented, I collected that. And then I brewed a beer. Then I used that, and it made a fantastic sour beer for me. I made a key lime pie sour. And then I
Uh-huh.
just got the yeast again. And I've recently done a blackberry, elderberry sour beer. So that elderflower yeast I'm reusing for wild fermentation beers now for sour
Yeah.
beers,
Nice.
and
Yeah.
it's working. It's working.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's where like the farmhouse or saisons kind of started was basically it was all wild fermentation.
Mm,
That's what said you didn't know what yeast you're getting, so you didn't know what kind of
yeah,
esters and all of that kind of thing you were getting at. So sometimes those are kind of interesting too, because I mean it's not necessarily a sour, but you get that funkiness to it. Like, oh, what the heck? I mean, so it's like, oh, 'cause it's a farmhouse or kind of thing.
yeah,
So it's like, okay, so
yeah. I know that John at Lords, if he's still in
uh,
chat, they did a beer with the log. And I
Oh, the
think,
log jam, yeah,
yeah, Clawhammer on YouTube, they did one as well. I don't know if you ever
yeah.
watched them. So yeah, it is interesting. I don't know if I'm right, but maybe John just put the log in, no yeast, and that log brought the yeast.
Oh, yeah, no, I think they just threw the log. Yeah, they threw the log in from what the stories. He threw the log into their fermentation chamber, and it took off because it was a big piece of wood. It had enough yeast. I think they kind of estimated like that should be enough
Yeah, it'd be
on there.
interesting when I go to see John if he's still got that log. I might take a little
I
piece
think,
of bark of it.
yeah, I think, yeah, I'm assuming I think he did because they were talking about making another one at some point.
Yeah, won't mind having a
So
piece of bark and then trying to brew a saison.
yeah.
It'd be
Um.
interesting.
Oh, yeah. So, what is your favorite yeast to use? I mean, regardless of
Uh,
you reusing or whatever. I mean, if you were just,
if I was just to use a dry yeast for my ales, I think
Mhm.
if it was like the style of British ales, like the milds, the bitters,
Yeah,
golden ales, I would go with Nottingham because it gives you that range. So if you, like I said before, if your temperatures aren't quite
yeah,
right, it's more forgiving. So, and it doesn't bring too many esters. It's quite balanced. So I quite like
yeah,
Nottingham ale yeast in the dry
yeah,
form.
yeah,
Is it Leyland? I don't know if I've got any
yeah.
left. I think
But
it's from them.
you had a different, you had the not that specific one, but you had another one from that brand earlier. You were
Yeah,
showing because
yeah,
they rebranded their packaging recently. So
yeah. That's right. No, I've not got any to show. Um, but I
yeah,
have got.
because basically you got Landemans or Downstar, because that's what names they
Yeah,
go by. Then you have Safe. I call Safe. Um, yeah, that one.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
So that's the Kivike Voss.
yeah,
Right. That's a dry form.
yeah.
And I don't. Have you tried that one yet? Because I was going to say, if I was doing
No,
the
I
new,
haven't.
for doing the New England style beers, the Verdant
Yeah.
IPA, which is a brewery in Cornwall in the UK.
Mhm.
It's fantastic yeast for doing the New England IPA
Yeah.
because it's lock you up. The yeast helps keep some of the haze, and also that
Yeah.
yeast will bring like apricot and stone fruit.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Which is yeah.
yeah, so if I wasn't brewing a British traditional beer, so I wasn't using Nottingham, I think I'd go for Verdant for the
Yeah.
new hazy American style beers.
Yeah. Because what John says he didn't think Mike kept the log.
Yeah, I go up there and John just
Uh,
give me the bark off a tree from Huddersfield.
yeah. Jimmy. Yeah. It's 9 o'clock here in the morning. Yeah, it's too early.
Yeah,
So basically, so what I use, I do dry yeast too, and I usually will do. I use, of course, I wish I had brought my example. I do the SO4, SO5 mostly. So for the Landemans, oh, I butchered it. I'll do the BR97, the West Coast, for like my
ah,
IPAs and pales.
yeah. I don't think I've got that
I'll
one.
use that.
No, I've not got
Then
that one.
if I when whatever British beers, yeah.
That's an East Coast.
Yeah, but basically, it's they'll say American West for it's green, I think.
Yeah,
Um, then I'll do
is it the Fermentis SO4? Isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah.
from yeah. I call it they call it safe. It's
Sapphire.
Safel, yeah,
Yeah,
a
because
Saf Lager. So that's their they
yeah,
get like two names. One's their official name, and one's kind of the
yeah. Is it? Am I right in saying the SO4 is like a British style yeast,
yeah.
and the
It's a
SO5?
basic British. Yeah,
Yeah,
and SO5 is the American, and those are basically just a basic clean yeast. As I said, it's a good starter. I mean, also you can venture out to like Nottingham. Um, well, the only two like when I do my extra shark bite used to have the London ESB, but now they just call it London, I think now. So
yeah,
I don't know if
yeah.
they just changed the name of the packaging. That and I as I said, use Nottingham, and I've used But yeah, I'll do SO4, SO5,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
this I know. Oh yeah, I know.
The,
Um,
I don't know how true it is, but apparently, who brews Heady Topper? I can't remember the name of the brewery over in America.
yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I'm brain farting now.
I can't think of it. Um, Alchemist, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Mrs. B.
Their yeast strain is come from Boddington's originally, which was
Oh wow. Yeah.
brewery in Manchester at the time. So that's interesting because that yeast now has got a name, hasn't it? It's got a name
Yeah.
there. I can't quite remember the name of that yeast now. I think you can buy
Yeah.
it in America.
I think I'm sure we can. I just got to find the online source for it,
Yeah,
kind of thing. But yeah, no, because those are the basic ones that I use. So I don't. Every once in a while, I'll venture out and trying other ones and stuff like
yeah,
that. I'm just looking on my website and see
yeah.
what they have for.
So I can just show people on screen. Just go through. So we've got the New England. So that's the American East Coast. We've got the Verdant, which is a UK brewery, but that does fantastic New England style beers. Then you've got the Kvike yeast, which is the one that you
Yeah.
can ferment at higher temperatures and it really quick. Then you've got something like this, a German wheat style. This is a Munich classic ale
Yeah.
yeast. The one that Shark mentioned earlier is a Fermentis W34070, which is a lager yeast. I've got a funny
Lager.
feeling that's
It's a
from the West.
it's a Bohemian lager. So it's a
Yeah, is it the West Stefana yeast? I've got a feeling.
No, well, the West of Honor is only one I can think of that here is the it's the in the liquid form. It,
I've got a feeling that could be it. I don't know. And then
well,
you've got this one, Belgian style
yeah.
Abbey.
Oh yeah, and I use the Belgian for like my Christmas beers 'cause I want that fruity, that dark fruit esters and kind of thing to come out.
And this one is a British style Windsor. Now, the good thing with
Yeah,
Windsor, it's not got a high attenuation. So if you want some residual sweetness left behind in the beer, it will help you do that as well. And then this is going back to the very start of our conversation, and that's a yeast that you'd normally
yeah,
get in a
yeah,
kit where you haven't got a clue what it is. It's just a silver packet. Looks like
yeah,
the crisp, the shaken crisp that you just get the
yeah,
solid. It just looks like one of them. So
yeah. And I was just like, that's what as like we said earlier. I looked into that and kind of see if I can find like, there's no nothing. Maybe you can contact them to tell you, but they'll just say, "Oh, it's the general." I mean, they won't. Come
yeah,
on, I'm a home brewer. Tell me.
yeah, and that's why I'd advise people just to go out and buy
Yeah,
their own
yeah.
yeast.
If they have somewhere local, yeah, I would basically just
Yeah,
go ahead and buy
yeah,
it. Go. I would say that would improve your beer. There will
yeah,
be a difference in that.
yeah. Also,
But yeah, no.
we're talking about. I don't know if you've seen this book before.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah,
That's a really good book about historical brewing techniques, and that does go into Kvike yeast and the
yeah.
farmhouse brewing Norway.
Well, I think did John Palmer put a book about yeast or
Yes, was it John Palmer? There's a whole book about yeast, isn't there?
yeah,
That series, water,
water
yeast,
hops, yeah, and the grain,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But another one which is quite good. This one,
yeah,
you can see I've already got yeast written on there because I like to read about the yeast. That's quite interesting.
yeah,
That tells you about yeast. And then
yeah.
the last one I'd recommend is this one.
Oh yeah,
Wild Brews by Jägerweiss, who does Wildcard Brewery in the UK. And it's all about wild fermentation and Kvike and stuff. And it's really good recipes. So if anyone is watching is interested in yeast, and if they're in the UK, definitely get hold of the wild one as well. But yeah, they're the books that I sort of read about for yeast and stuff.
Yeah.
But there was that one you mentioned, and I can't remember who is it. John Palmer? I can't remember.
I think he's it's somebody, but yeah. But yeah, there's like everything, like you got the water. I mean, there's a lot of things about water. I mean, there's so much to read. I mean, you can go into all
Yeah,
the scientific part of it, or you just basically use like, no, I just want, what yeast do I use with certain beers? And depends where you go. I like website I'm looking at, they'll kind of give you a ballpark of what kind of styles it's kind of good for, kind of thing. Because you can, whatever beer you make, you can use any yeast you want. I mean, this you have to use this one every time. No, you can mix match anything you want. I mean,
you could even go like we said with no yeast and just let the wild take over.
yeah. Because a lot of times when they do that, that's how they create these new style of beers. They just like, oh, I'm gonna mix go this with that kind of thing, and all of a sudden they got like the New England IPA. I was like, boom, there's the kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. I think when we're talking about, I mean, lager is probably something like in the whole world. I think 90% of people drink lager, and that
Mhm.
yeast that makes it lager was actually an ale yeast that got contaminated in a barrel on its way
Yeah,
around Europe, and then they found, there's now a new yeast, and it's bottom fermenting lager yeast, and it just came from that.
yeah.
And 90% of like the people that drink lagers, so
Oh
that
yeah.
that yeast
And
is famous.
and the funny thing about the lager yeast, there's not too many variants of it.
Yeah,
I mean, and but with the ale yeast, you got so
yeah,
many. You got like, oh, your head just spin. I'll get some. But actually, the lager yeast, I think there's. I don't know if I say there's maybe three, four.
yeah. I
I mean,
don't know.
it's not. I mean, it's not in comparison to the ale. Yeah, it's night and day.
Yeah, yeah,
Because there's so many. This yeast is so good for that, and so that you don't
yeah. Don't
experiment
mess.
of doing other things.
Yeah,
I think
don't mess.
yeah, I don't know if you ever experiment of doing it. Is I know people in the past. You don't hear too much of late. Is they'll ferment with one, then basically when it close to the
Pitch
end,
never.
they'll add a little bit of pitch and Taylor style to kind of pull out whatever because they want to change up the
Yeah,
taste and all that kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. There's,
But you gotta be careful with that because that could backfire on you too. And so you can
yeah. So you're pitching two different styles. They basically
yeah
say pitch one, which is going to start sort of attenuating pretty quick, and then the second one will bring in like esters that you want
yeah
from the beer. I've not messed with that yet, as such. Not done
no
that
because
yet.
yeah because that's dangerous because it's the timing of when you do it too. I think and it's just because a lot of people do oh you just mix the two together, but no it's you
Yeah,
separate the two
yeah, that's right. You
kind of
pitch them at
thing.
different times and
Yeah,
temperatures. You know,
yeah,
I suppose,
that's
yeah, it's like a lager yeast. You're pitching that low, and then you're bringing it up to ale yeast temperature. You pitch an ale yeast to get the esters. But like you
yeah,
said, the W3470 can go from 9 degrees to 22. So you wouldn't even need to do that because you can do that with that
yeah,
yeast anyway. So that will,
yeah.
work
Especially
that
where
way.
I'm at, it's easier to I can control it a little bit better at that
Yeah.
range. Obviously, I mean, this is like good time to do it because it's cold here. I mean, kind of thing. But I can do it later on
Yeah.
and say,
It's like,
okay,
it's like historically the Germans only used to brew beer in the colder months. They wasn't
yeah,
allowed to brew beer in the summer because it just ruined beer. So then they'd
yeah,
lager it from March until September, Oktoberfest. And then
yeah,
they'd have that storage time. But that was what it was all about, really. It was like brew all the beer before the end of March, and then
yeah,
the Marzens would be brewed, and then they'd be drinking them in the end of September for Oktoberfest. But nowadays, they don't need to do that because temperature controls.
and here we go. We have this. We have Dave's his joke.
He's found.
Yeah,
But yeah, yeast. I could talk about yeast and just like I say,
yeah.
it's just interesting. I
Well,
think it's one of them things that people don't realize is so key to
yeah.
making it.
Well, it's just like anything. Actually, you get the water. I mean, you can do the basic of it, but then you can go into the more details of it. I mean, like the water chemistry and even
Yeah.
like I said, the yeast chemistry, because basically it's how you do your starters, I mean, or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, it's a fascinating hobby. You can say
Yeah.
kind of thing.
I, I've just started to look into pressure fermentation on a small scale
Yeah,
because that's what we
yeah,
do. And that again, that also depending on the yeast, whether that will work, because some ale yeasts won't ferment under pressure, where lager yeasts love
oh,
fermenting
loves
under
it.
pressure.
Yeah,
Again, you've got to learn a whole new thing just by changing one process in the brew. You've got to learn a
yeah.
lot before it, just before you do that.
Well, the only thing about pressure fermentation too is you can do it at a little bit higher temperature there also,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it'll get away with it'll allow you to do that too.
yeah,
That's why I think that's what a lot of people do with the lager yeast, because now they can, instead of keeping
yeah,
it at that real low temperature, they can now raise it up
yeah.
a
That's
little
right.
bit.
So they can brew lagers quicker under pressure because one thing that it does, the lager yeast likes to work under the pressure, and then secondly, the esters don't appear at high temperatures, so you can
Yeah.
ramp it up to 24 degrees with a lager yeast,
Hmm.
and you can have a lager within 7 days in some circumstances, which is just
Yeah.
crazy.
Oh
It's,
yeah. No,
yeah,
listen, homebrew again. Homebrewing, we can talk for days and days. And, I mean, and still have more things to talk about. I mean, there's so much out there.
yeah. We've just spent nearly an hour talking about dry yeast and yeast.
Try yes, yeah. We didn't even talk about the liquid. Yeah, we didn't even touch the liquid.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
have nearly an hour of talking about just yeast. This is
yeah,
it's unbelievable. It's yeah, that's
yeah,
the thing with homebrewing. Once you get the passion, the addiction to doing it, you want to share,
yeah.
and
Oh
that's a
yeah.
good
What
thing
is it?
about these this hour that we do. It's really good because we can sort of show our passion for an hour.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of showing passion, so what? Kind of it's getting close to the hour. What are you? Are you brewing anything at the moment? What's upcoming with your home brew?
So I've got the saison that I was talking about. That's conditioning.
Hmm.
It's a lemon and pepper saison. I've got the Lord's thing. That's going to be. We're sort of in discussion now. We've sorted out the recipe, and it's just myself, John, Mike, Steve, just to arrange a date now in the near future to go and do that. So I'm looking forward to that as well. And I've got some um, regional homebrew comps coming up. So I'm entering 2 beers into the regional homebrew competition. One of them is going to be a red IPA, and the other one's going to be a strong dark mild. So
Okay. Ooh,
see how they go.
yeah. 'Cause I love when people say, "Oh, start strong, dark, mild." Going, okay, is that just a brown ale? But it's not.
No, no,
That's just kind of funny because I would call that a brown ale, I mean, or a porter or kind of thing, but it won't, because it's
yeah,
yeah,
it's mildly hopped, but um, it's going to be. I think it's going to be about 5.5%. So, but
okay,
originally a mild in the 1920s, they were 5.56% beers. It's only after the war they came right down to 3% beers. So yeah, so I'm
yeah,
just basically brewing a pre pre-war
yeah,
mild sort of thing.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
dark version.
So yeah, so right now I'm in week one of fermenting my porter because I decided to do a porter for St. Patrick's Day this year, and so and that's it's actually it was everything was all the numbers were just a tad high, so I'm gonna have either a 5.5 to probably a mid five for a porter. So that's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm lagering my German Pilsner, which I see I'm in the keg, probably today also. Then my next beer is going to be, I think I'm gonna do my I'm gonna do my Sharkweiser, I believe. So that way I can put it lager for a while.
Yeah.
Then
You put a short video up of your porch, isn't there?
yeah, I released a video the other day. Yeah, I took you a little trick of the rack to drain the
Yeah.
drain.
Yeah.
It was which that was it's still kind of funny though because it still sits on there and doesn't really
Stop.
drain as stops.
Yeah.
But when you pull it up, it goes. Float. I'm going like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
It holds itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like that. So almost to the point where because I have a cabinet above, I'm almost want to get a string and like tie it and let it just like kind
Yeah.
of have like a kind of thing and just let it drink. But I'm like, I can hold. I mean, that's another benefit of doing small batch. Yeah, okay, I hold this for like 30
Yeah.
minutes, let it drain and move on.
I just
And,
get Mrs. B to come in and hold it.
so here,
Yeah, just hold
yeah,
this. What's
yeah,
day? 64 today.
yeah. But yeah, no. Oh, the other thing too is I'm gonna venture into going a little bit larger ish.
Oh, wow.
Well, I'm gonna basically I am because I'm doing basically I'm gonna ramp up to my same size I do with my shark wiser. It's gonna be I'll say a 12-liter batches. I'm gonna I'm gonna play with that for a few batches, kind of
Yeah.
see because I'm kind of like I mean I'm not gonna be brewing as I'll say as much. I'm kind of playing with my schedule. My little spreadsheet I sent to you.
Yeah.
Kind of like I'm aiming to do like one brew a month kind of thing. So I'm just out of curiosity, and basically, and some of the I'm gonna kind of it's one of those I'm kind of pulling back. I'm gonna kind of like okay, I'm gonna kind of learn the processes again because I mean some of the beers are gonna be partial mash kind
Okay.
of thing. I'll have a little bit of dry malt and basically I'll mash or steep in all the other specialty grains kind of thing. I just want to dabble with that a little bit and kind of make. So, because people are like, oh, I want one of your beers. Like, well, the small batches are going, no, they're all mine.
Yeah.
Kind of
Because
thing.
if I do any bottling from their beer, I probably get about 12, 13 free 30 ml bottles. That's it.
Yeah,
Or if I put it into
yeah,
my 5 litre keg, it's not a massive amount, but the whole
no,
point of the small batch brewing is I have variety, which I like. That's definitely the positive side of it is variety of beer.
yeah, oh yeah. But no, so I'm still almost brewing the. I mean, but the same. I mean, amount. I'm just not as. I think I cut back one, two. Yeah, I basically cut back two. No, actually, just yeah, two. That would have normally done it throughout the whole year. So it's not like I'm but I just kind of ramp because I want to play with the equipment I got. I'm like, okay, because eventually what I want to do too is I say I'm going to do, I want to kind of get the numbers down that, okay, with what I need. And then eventually I'm going to go back to same size, but it's going to be all grain. So
Yeah,
but when I do that, I'm going to have to go back to, because it won't be necessarily a true brew in the bag. I'm going to have to sparge
yeah,
by like 4 liters of water, I'll say, kind of thing, just enough to kind of thing. So I'll have to go back to that
yeah,
to kind of thing because I mean, interesting to see if after the few years I've been brewing the bag, if I can maintain those numbers or I'm gonna lose efficiency with that sparging kind of thing. I was okay now. So I'm having a 5.5% beer now. I'm having a 5% beer because my efficiency went kind of thing.
yeah.
So
That's
I
right. Yeah,
want to kind of learn that or kind of relearn that. I'll say
yeah.
aspect of it.
It's a good thing though, isn't it? Because like with everything, if you just go back to basics and then
Yeah,
relearn, and what you've already learned as well, you can
yeah,
start to put that in practice again. And I think
yeah,
I think it's like when if we go back and make a simple brew, sometimes it's a good thing just to go back and make a simple brew, just so you know
yeah,
your skill and then process is right. Because
yeah,
sometimes you start to get a little bit too complicated and you miss something, and you go, "Oh
yeah,
no, God!" because you're pushing it too far. So sometimes it's good to take a step back, do a simple beer, and start again.
But yeah, no, because that's another reason too why I do basic style beers. Because I mean, I can go to the local brewery and they can do this funky version of the same beer style kind of thing. Like let the masters do it, and I'll have my basic everyday beer kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. For me, brewing I really like dark milds, and there's really, unless it's just one of them beer styles that are really hard to get hold of. So home brewing is good for that because you can brew that yourself. So if it's a style of beer that you can't really get hold of much, like a dark mild, there's not a lot of places brewing or sell them in a bottle or can. And if you can brew that yourself, it's better.
Well, I kind of was doing that because obviously like, I love brown ales. You don't get that to me. I said, okay, that's gonna be my focus. I'm just gonna do all brown kind of ales and whatever. And but then all of a sudden people, oh well, we got like my dad went, I want an ESP or I'm like, okay, all of a sudden, wait a minute, I'm barely brewing a brown now because everyone kind of for the beers I do share, I go, okay, it's like, okay, like, wait a minute, I need to get back to
back to basics.
But because later on at the end of the year, I'm brewing a mild also.
Yeah.
That'd be a dark mild, but yeah, because I kind of like I said I like to do the dark miles, the brown ales, and then in the brown ales, it's either the English or the American browns, either one. And I'm kind of pretty good at
that. Is dark mild a beer that is is it available in the US, or is it literally only because you're brewing your own?
That's the reason why you can find it, but it's very hit and miss. The brown ale is the same way. Basically, I want to say that the beer culture, it basically just dictated you had to have an IPA, and basically it's just like everything's IPA. I mean, you go to the bottle shop and it's like 75% I pale or an IPA kind of thing, and the rest of it it's all mixed of whatever throughout the year kind of thing. It's just like so. And once I do find a brewery that does have, like, oh, I latch onto them kind of until they kind of thing. Because there was one local brewery, they had their IPA, they had their browns, they had kind of you had too many choices. I'll put it that way. Kind of like, okay, now what do I want? Like I use this, and like I'll step aside, let somebody else go because I'm sold this. I want. Yeah.
And then you don't get. It's like going to a beer festival, isn't it? When I go to a beer festival, I'll drink thirds because I want to try as many as possible. But I don't know if it's the same in the US, but in the UK, when you go to a beer festival, when you ask for a third, you normally get a half. So it's like, I'm never going to get through these beers. It's not going to happen. There's too many.
Okay. So, now this would be a good question about that. Because when I go to beer festivals, basically you get the third size glass. So you don't, unless you get lucky and wherever the brewery, or actually, usually the festivals, they give you a third size glass. Now, if you go to a brewery's anniversary, they'll give you a pint glass, but they'll have in their logo, they'll have like a line where we're kind of where the service report to kind of thing. And so you get a third of that, but like you said, sometimes if they know you're talking, oh shoot, I've got this tap. Exactly. Oh, here you go. You're going, oh, really?
Yeah, I've not been to a beer festival in the UK where they do third classes, but they do schooners.
I'll be right back.
Or pint pots, which have got the etching, the marks on them for halves, thirds, and the full pint. What's the comments? What's going on in the comments? What's a job? Luke, 30 beers in 11.
So anyway,
wow, it's tiny.
So it's an anniversary. So that's basically, so I said you get that, and it's glass.
Yeah.
So yeah, so as I said, you can't get. I mean, you can order serve yourself, but I mean they won't. So you get a lot of. I get a lot of those.
So that's a third class.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've not seen them in the UK. I don't know if anyone in chat has. Maybe Luke or Lords John, possibly.
Yeah, yeah. For most beer festivals, they will do it that way. Now, like I said before, if you get a brewery having their anniversary party or whatever, then you'll get a, a, a real glass. I'll say depends what style. I mean, glass it is, but you'll get a real style.
Yeah, yeah,
But no, that makes it nice because that way, because then you can just easy to carry and
yeah. It's tiny.
yeah.
I didn't realize it looks bizarre now looking at that. That's a third. It looks like a
Yeah.
mouthful.
Oh yeah. You can polish it off real quick. Well, the other thing too is down because then basically because they'll have water stations, you can go and rinse it out and whatever happened. Chug a little bit of water too at the same time.
Yeah, true.
So kind of, I mean, if when you do that, when you do that kind of thing, sometimes you start doing that, and all things, and you're like, oh, when was the last time I had water? Oh well.
Yeah,
But yeah,
well,
the reason why they probably do this too because it's unlimited servings. So you can, if you had a pint glass,
yeah,
wherever you're going, yeah, you would have too
yeah.
much carnage.
You'd have to be Luke John to do that.
Yeah,
That's the only
yeah,
way.
yeah,
Yeah, just a mouthwash.
yeah. But no, I mean, like I said, a lot of times, like I said, you go to beer festivals. I mean, there's a lot of breweries there. You want like I don't want a full. I mean, unless you find a beer that it's like really good, and like okay, now give me the full whatever. But
Yeah,
I want to try
yeah,
everybody's kind of have a
yeah. I think
chance to try everybody's.
yeah, that's what I aim to do. But then say it's coming up to last orders, and you think I really enjoyed that beer, I might just go and get a pint
Oh
of that
yeah,
one.
oh yeah.
You
No,
know,
yeah, I've done that. Yeah, no.
at the end of the night.
But yeah, no, because even I don't think because there was a like a homebrew festival, and I think they kind of did that same thing where they I mean I think it was bring your own kind of glass whatever because it was just homebrew, so it's like they didn't have anything. So a lot of people had this little guy, or they had to. So you pick and choose on that one.
Yeah, yeah. We do,
Because
we do very
that's
similar at the homebrew club. We have a
yeah.
monthly meetup, and if anyone brings any homebrews along, we just have a small glass each.
Yeah. Oh yeah, if you're bottle sharing, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Which is great. You get to try different homebrews, and yeah,
Okay, yeah. So, anyways, this was a good conversation today. Short as always, but that's
yeah,
how we kind of like it. And
yeah,
so, look for us into sometime in March. Don't know what
yeah,
the subject is. If there's any suggestions, put it in the comments. If you're rewatching anything, that way it kind of help us out. I mean, obviously, like I said, we said before, there's a lot of things we can talk about, but if there's anything you guys want to us, any good ideas, none of these crazy ideas, we will censor. I will censor it. The ideas, but yeah. But no, as I love these kind of conversations. I wish there would be. I mean, they're out there. They're just hard to find.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think because we were talking about last night. I was like, I don't see too many home brewers going live. I mean, see them doing all videos, but you rarely see them doing lives kind of thing.
yeah,
Have a group discussion like this.
yeah.
So
I think there's one. Is the podcast? I think it's called something, the Hopcast or something. They do something similar.
yeah, I think that yeah. As I
It
said,
might be.
there's a rare. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, because there's another one. There are two girls out here that do the same thing, I believe.
Yeah,
And also,
yeah.
yeah.
But
But
I mean,
anyways, no.
for us,
But,
it's just the fact that we both do quite small scale as well.
yeah, I
So
wanted to say we're the same size. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Listen,
So it's
I'm
good.
upscaling ish. I said
Yeah,
it's only for 2 or 3 batches, and I'm still doing my small batches. I
yeah,
won't get away from that. My only dream is, I wish they would do a stainless steel fermenter in our size.
Yeah, we need to make one.
Yeah, I need to find somebody who can. Yeah, but stainless steel. That's hard. That's hard to use. I mean, you get somebody to know what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe we may have a chat about this in March, but I'm doing, like I say, just trying out pressure fermentation at the moment.
Yeah.
But I'm using a corny keg to do that. So that's a stainless steel vessel, which you can
Uh-huh.
use for pressure fermentation as well as serving. So that
Okay.
might be, we might have 15 minutes in March to discuss that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'll go from there. But anyways, Rob, it was a pleasure chatting with you again today.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks for
And
having me on again.
oh yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Are you doing the Fab Show today or?
I think we're putting it off until I'm fully up and running, as such.
Okay. Okay.
So
Gotcha. Yeah.
so
Okay.
yeah. So hopefully, maybe next week. I'm not too sure, but I
Okay.
have, just whilst we're here, on my community page on my channel, I put a question out. If anyone
Oh,
wants to
yes.
just
Yeah.
put a question for me, I want to look at doing a Q&A type video. So only beer
Yeah.
related or homebrew related, not questions in like, what's your waist
Yeah.
size?
Yeah.
It's
No,
beer
it's like
related.
basically kind of a spin-off from this kind of sense.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. It's not going to be a live video. It's just going to be a
It-
recorded
yeah. Just
video.
you basically answer. You can basically get a question and you just answer it. And
Yeah,
yeah, that'd be awesome to kind of watch and kind of see how that develops.
yeah. So that's
Okay.
good.
Well. Yeah. So
Cheers, everyone.
everybody have a good day, and I'll talk to you guys all soon.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, about cheers here. You know it's empty.